Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Coming up tonight, Prime Minister Davis reveals his administration's stance on oil drilling. An exclusive look at government's post-election plans, plus new health rules not set in stone. What you need to know. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, upon his return from COP26 Climate Change World Leaders Conference in Scotland, Prime Minister Philip Davis was pressed today on his government's position on oil drilling. He says upon leaving COP26, his government is minded not to support it. Kyle Joaquin reports.
As I speak, having come from the COP conference and having had conversations with world leaders, having had conversations with technical people, I am minded not to allow oil drilling or oil export. And for certain, at this time, I'm not prepared to move to oil exploitation.
It's the first time Davis has stated his administration's position on the controversial topic. A year ago, when he was opposition leader, Davis said if the PLP were elected to office, he would support environmentally friendly oil drilling. Fast forward to a month and a half into this term in office, Davis now answering the question many have been asking. Does his administration support oil drilling in Bahamian waters?
Because you could drill, cap, and monetize. You could drill and exploit. Exploitation is something that I'm not, with the world going the way it is, I will be going with the world.
The question was put to State Minister for the Environment Basil McIntosh while at COP26. However, he did not give government's position. Challenger Energy Group plc, formerly Bahamas Petroleum Company, said last month it was still negotiating to extend its leases in the Bahamas for another 3 years. Davis, an attorney, said last December he represented BPC as it was attempting to secure licenses under the first Christie administration, which it eventually secured. He was not in cabinet at that time. But Davis was asked about that today.
As far as I mean, there are no extant oil drilling leases going forward. The question of oil drilling did come up. There is an understanding that the elimination of fossil fuel completely may be a pipe dream and or nothing that we will see in our lifetime.
But he says it's something the world is moving toward, and we will see it happen perhaps 2 or 3 decades from now. While he gave that statement on oil drilling in Bahamian waters, Davis says his administration is also looking at carbon credits.
We are moving towards monetizing our carbon credits so that at the end of the day, that if we need new revenue streams of revenues to provide the services that our people need, and I could get it from the monetization of my carbon credits, there's no need for me to look at drilling.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Meanwhile, environmentalists are slamming the government for not taking a hard stance against oil drilling when asked about the matter at COP26. Here's Gillian Gray.
Minister of State and the Minister of the Environment, the Prime Minister, must be definitive that we will not allow drilling for oil in the archipelagic nation of Bahamas. One major spill would destroy our economy.
After Minister of State for the Environment dodged questions about oil drilling at COP26, environmentalists are urging the government to take a hard stance against oil drilling. Sam Duncombe of Re-Earth says she found it irresponsible for the government to spend money to go to the environmental conference without a position on the matter.
That the Deepwater Horizon that hemorrhaged God knows how many millions of gallons of oil into the Gulf of Mexico is still leaking and was also an exploratory well. So, no to oil drilling. I mean, we have the sun that literally can power the earth.
Prime Minister Philip Davis suggested the Bahamas will look into selling some of its carbon credits in lieu of oil drilling, a move which Darville called foolhardy, considering the damaging practices successive governments have allowed.
We can't say we don't produce any emissions, because we do. They may be small, but if you compare our use of power, for example, or the way we eat to the average American, we're pretty much on par.
If we start to measure our carbon output We're going to have to deal with the aircraft that go over us and they spew tons of carbon into the air every year. We're going to have to measure that. We're going to have to measure what the cruise ships do. We're going to have to measure what all of those thousands and thousands of container ships which ply through our waters, what they spew not only into our air, but what they dump into our ocean.
There's millions of dollars in other non-threatening natural resources in the Bahamas, according to Duncombe and Darville, who say the government should not be swayed by the lure of millions of dollars in oil drilling. They say it's pristine beaches like this one that needs to be preserved for the future. Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
Upon his return from COP26, Prime Minister Philip Davis says he hopes world leaders take this latest commitment to enacting change seriously. Protesters and Caribbean leaders have argued that no action follows similar meetings, and smaller nations like those in the region are meant to pay the price.
As I said to President Biden, they're just now re-engaging, and there's still some skepticism about the engagement, because yes, he and his team, and not all in the Democratic Party, are as gung-ho as he is in what he would like to see an attempt to get done in respect to not only assisting the world, but also in his own country.
The Bahamas has a delegation still in Scotland attending COP26, and Davis says he hopes agreements are made to benefit the planet and, more specifically, the region.
We have to be proud that our voice was heard, and we pointed out what the challenges will likely be. Like I said, for us and most of countries like ourselves in the Caribbean, if we are lucky, we'll become refugees. That means some country might take us. If we are unlucky, the consequences of Dorian will be upon us. How many more lives we'd lose, and we'd probably be wiped out as a nation.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister hitting back at opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis, who blamed the new administration for the COVID-19 outbreak on some islands within a month of the general election. Davis dismissed that assertion, insisting his government is cleaning up the Minnis administration's mess. Vonique Toot reports.
It continues to be clueless.
In his first contribution in the House of Assembly since the Free National Movement's defeat at the polls, former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis on Monday accused the Davis administration of failing the Family Islands during the COVID-19 pandemic. The opposition leader urged Health Minister Dr. Michael Darville to do an analysis of the number of deaths that occurred in the Family Islands when the FNM was in power versus the new administration's time in office. Davis scoffed at this suggestion.
He just needs to look at the month of August and look at the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks of September. He called the election when the virus was raging, and the Minister of Health, I think, responded to him adequately. The surge that we experience is what is as a direct result of decisions he made. We are cleaning up the mess.
Health officials confirmed 142 COVID-19 deaths in September, the deadliest month for the Bahamas since the start of the pandemic. Minnis has been heavily criticized for calling a general election in the midst of the worst surge in COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths in the country. In the weeks ahead of the September 16th election, Free National Movement leaders traveled the country for drive-in rallies. However, in some instances, party supporters left their vehicles and socialized. Davis also insisted that when he took office, they met the Family Islands in a state of neglect.
But just go look at the Family Islands. All the clinics are in disrepair. There was no place for persons to go to get treatment. The doctors and nurses are lacking in the Family Islands. That's how he left it. So what would he have expected? Right? We expect to do better. We expect that you're seeing the end of the challenges that we faced with the pandemic.
Responding to Minnis' assertion that the opposition has no confidence in the Davis administration's ability to execute a strategy to protect Bahamians, the Prime Minister said, just watch.
We will follow our plan, and we think our plan will work and is now working. The challenge is that the healthcare system has collapsed, and we need to try to build that back up. But we are responding as best we can in the circumstances that we have found.
Thanks, Vonique. Scattered showers around the capital today. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Thanks, Christina, and welcome everybody for your first look at weather on this humid Friday evening. Mostly cloudy skies outside our studios with some spotty showers here and there. Temperatures near the 80-degree mark. Very light winds out of the southeast at 5 knots, and your feels like temperature very humid, 85 degrees. On our satellite view, we are watching a lot of tropical moisture moving out of the Gulf of Mexico associated with a developing low-pressure system and a frontal boundary. Unsettled weather pattern will continue for us tonight through tomorrow, so look for some heavy showers and some possible thunderstorms. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, government says feedback is welcome on the new health rules, and a chat with the youngest chairman ever at the Bahamas Development Bank. That's coming up when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
The health rules that will replace the current emergency order are not set in stone, as Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation Chester Cooper says the government is open to feedback. Jasmine Brown reports.
We have received feedback on the health services rules. We will consider all of the feedback we received, and we will make adjustments where warranted. Our aim is to listen. Our aim is to manage the pandemic, live with COVID as long as we must, and transition to a new normal.
Cooper making the comments as he wrapped up debate on a resolution thanking the Governor General for reading the speech from the throne. Cooper says while government has already gotten feedback, it wants more.
We want to hear from you. There are things that will escape us. We're not all-knowing. We're not omnipotent.
A state of emergency was declared in the Bahamas last March after the country's first COVID case was confirmed. Various emergency orders were then issued, restricting the movement of Bahamians, the operation of non-essential businesses, and the imposition of a curfew, among other things. On Monday, Minister of Health and Wellness Dr. Michael Darville tabled the Health Services COVID-19 Prevention and Management of Community Spread Rules 2021 and the Health Services COVID-19 General Rules 2021. Those rules come into effect when the state of emergency expires on November 13th. Many of the current restrictions will remain in place, others will be removed, and new mandates will be imposed.
To the Bahamian people, I say, this road will not be easy. There will be bumps, there will be potholes and speed bumps, there will be obstacles. But please bear with us and partner with us on this journey.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Meanwhile, commercial watercraft operators will be back in business later this month. Minister of Transport and Housing, JoBeth Colby-Davis, says operations will resume on November 15th. Operators were shut down in March 2020 when the first COVID-19 case was confirmed, but she says it will come with mandatory requirements.
In reopening the industry, all operators will be required to complete their license application and participate in mandatory industry training, the first session of which is scheduled for Monday, the 8th of November, 2021. This training will include sanitization and health protocols to ensure the safety of patrons and guests. Further details concerning this training will be released shortly.
The government has appointed the chairman of the Port Authority, which has regulatory oversight of the industry, and will soon appoint the remaining board members. When our news comes back from the break, how the pandemic hurt HIV/AIDS awareness, plus speaking with the youngest chairman of the Bahamas Development Bank. The details when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
This is our news. Welcome back. A pretty historic feat for one of the country's brightest young financial minds. Quinton Lightbourne was appointed chairman of the Bahamas Development Bank, the youngest to hold that post in the bank's history. Here's Kyle Joaquin.
You want to perform and do your best, to represent, to show that millennials and younger persons are ready to lead and ready to do what it takes to make sure that the Bahamas becomes a better place.
At the age of 34, Quinton Lightbourne is making history. The youngest person ever appointed as chairman of the Bahamas Development Bank, he's looking to bring more to the organization. A certified financial planner, Lightbourne says since his younger days, he knew what he wanted out of life and what it would take to get there.
It gives credence to the age-old adage of working hard and being diligent. You'll be able to achieve anything that you want to in this life. And I think I'm a testament of that because, I was never this stellar student or person that stood out. It was just the amount of hard work that I was able to put in that has been able to help propel me in my life thus far.
The BDB provides financial support to Bahamian entrepreneurs to establish or expand small and medium-sized enterprises. Walking through and meeting with his team, a rather young team, Lightbourne says he's excited to get to work.
I am indeed inspired by the persons here. It was a breath of fresh air when I came in and saw the amount of professionalism, the young persons that are involved, and in large part the goals that they have for the Bahamas Development Bank. And I think that's very important. I feel as if there's only great things and they're on the precipice of greatness.
And as he begins in this new role, Lightbourne says he could never forget his humble beginnings and had this word for young men and women working to achieve their goals.
Be persistent. Realize that life is a marathon and not a sprint. And I think that's very important, and be diligent in whatever it is that you want to do. And don't let anything stop you or anything hold you back.
In other news, the COVID-19 pandemic placed the once prominent issue of HIV/AIDS awareness into the background. Tonight, our Berthany McDermott tells us how the Bahamas AIDS Foundation is working to get back on track.
The COVID-19 pandemic created a domino effect, according to President of the Bahamas AIDS Foundation, Camille Barnett, as the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic meant less money and funding for causes like HIV and AIDS.
Our major fundraiser, the Red Ribbon Ball, which is the premier ball on the island, we have not been able to host it for 2 years. We're hoping that we'll be able to do it in 2022, but that really provided at least 3/4 of the funds that we need to operate our program. And unfortunately, we've had to release at least 12 of our staff. They're mainly part-time people, but they all played a critical role in what we did.
Barnett says they're now down to 1 social worker and office administrator, forcing the foundation to do the same work with a skeleton staff. Before the pandemic, the foundation provided a safe space for children affected by the virus, but that too was also scrapped.
They would come to us every afternoon, we would feed them, they would have access to computers and tutors to help them with their work. They had access to the social worker, a caseworker. We fed them, we gave them a hot meal before they left. The social worker would, for those who were positive and who weren't adhering to their medication, the social worker would observe them taking their medication.
Around 5,000 people have died from AIDS complications in the Bahamas since the 1980s. With that center closed, Barnett fears children with the virus aren't taking their medication, leading to serious health complications.
Getting sick, being hospitalized, and maybe if they're too far gone, they may actually die.
Despite the setback, the foundation still supports more than 160 infected Bahamians and their families. This World AIDS Day, themed End Inequalities, End AIDS, End Pandemics, Barnett says they're hoping to send this message.
It's an issue here and it's an issue around the world as well too. It's an issue because some people don't even know that they're positive. Some people know they're positive and are not prepared to go and seek the help that's necessary.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Still to come, some unsettled weather may be ahead, and new Bahamians are sworn in. Stay with us.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back to our news. Some rain ahead this weekend. Greg is back in the Weather Center with the details.
Thanks again, Christina, and welcome back, everybody, for your second look at weather. We are tracking a developing low-pressure system across Florida. It's been moving towards the northeast, should get to the north of the Bahamas by tomorrow. A gale center is expected to form, meaning we're going to have some very strong winds associated with that system. So we're asking boaters in the northwest Bahamas to remain in or near port. Of course, we still have some very strong showers and thunderstorms moving across areas, so we're looking for more of that tonight through tomorrow as the system continues to move towards the northeast. The remainder of the tropics, quiet. We still have one out there, really just a marine concern. Nothing happening in the tropics, and tropical cyclone formation is not expected through the next 5 days. Boating forecast for the northwest Bahamas. Of course, I mentioned the gale warning. Small craft remaining on near port. Southwest to west wind 15 to 25 knots, gusting to near gale force. While in the southeast and central Bahamas, southeast to south flow 15 to 20 knots, seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Wednesday. Just a reminder, daylight savings time ends tomorrow night at Sunday morning, so make sure before you go to bed tomorrow night, turn your clocks back 1 hour, you gain an hour's sleep, so we have shorter evenings and longer mornings. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Greg. Well, 20 people sworn in as Bahamian citizens during a naturalization ceremony Thursday morning. For some new Bahamians, the moment was a turning point. Giorgio Bain has more.
It is my privilege and pleasure, on behalf of the government of the Bahamas, to congratulate you and to welcome you as the newest citizens of our dear Commonwealth.
It's the moment 22-year-old Jasmine Sintel says that she's been looking forward to for 4 long years, the green light to pursue her dreams.
It's been long overdue. I've been waiting on this, but I'm feeling good. I'm just happy that, you know, I'm happy that I got it so I could get a job and everything, so everything could go smoothly, so I could travel. I don't know, I just want to go in the airport and spin around and point.
19-year-old Leonardo Hildargo was born in the Bahamas, but previously only had Peruvian citizenship. He says the process was easy, and now he's looking forward to completing his electrical engineering studies at the University of the Bahamas.
Looking for a job, you know, a job other than with my father, and you know, getting into trying to get a bank account, a business bank account, you know, all that stuff.
Others says it was a difficult journey.
It was hard not having a job, not having an income. I had to find a trade, basically. I had to become a nail tech, a lash tech, and that's not truly what I wanted to be. I want to be a pilot. I'm in school, I'm in pilot school right now, and now that I have my passport, I'm able to finish it completely.
Minister of Immigration Keith Bell says there are several reasons for the long wait.
I met a young man who applied as far back as 2009, they're still waiting. But what happened is sometimes they are missing documents. Sometimes they may have been born here, but they need documents out of their parents' countries, which is sometimes extremely difficult to get. There are a myriad of issues and challenges in terms of ensuring that they get the requisite documents for us to consider their application thoroughly.
Reporting for our news, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Congratulations to those new Bahamians, and thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.